it's my big pleasure to be in this webinar in front, or with audience, all the young Arab leaders. I mean, I don't feel like a veteran, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, I feel like, okay, I have experience, but there is so much more to learn here, and actually to learn from young people, to be honest. And that's why I see it as a very interactive process. So I'm Greek. I started, from a small town in Greece. My parents were actually both entrepreneurs. That's how I appreciate entrepreneurship. Even though I studied computer science, and then I moved to to software development, and then to asset management when I was in New York and London, and then I moved to the Middle East. So I worked for large institutions. So the first part of my career was actually quite institutional. And then I started venturing myself. So that's when I realized and I experienced the pleasure of taking risks, of partnering with people who take risks with you, making it, failing, understanding, what are the intricacies of actually starting something new. And later on, actually, through my different role as a CEO of Kanoo Capital, Kanoo as a family is one of the most entrepreneurial groups in the region, however, quite institutionalized. We kept, dealing with entrepreneurs, with ventures. We invested also as part of the asset allocation that we had into VC. And so I have a different experience with venture capital from the very beginning, like a startup, as an angel investor, or even as an entrepreneur myself, to late stage VC. Therefore, I think we can cover different areas of the asset class. But at the end of the day, everything starts from somewhere. And that's the beauty of the startups and excitement.
Right. Thank you. Thanks for that. Stergios, if we take your, you've had quite a diverse experience, as you say, from a geographic as well as a stages of the journey. If we try to take all of that and look at the Middle East from that lens, look at this region, and assess take a pulse of the market. How do you see it? What do you see? How do you see it in terms of the stage of growth it's at? What's happening now? What do you think the outlook is like?
Okay, great. I mean, when I moved here in 2005, there was no VC, to be honest. There was just ventures, families doing partnerships with international firms and set up something, or the very typical type of new ventures, especially in areas like construction, contracting, F&B, logistics, shipping, the very, very basic, but also imperative. And then everything around oil and gas, like how you can support oil and gas, 2005. I've seen, especially over the past 5 to 8 years, such an exponential growth to the, it was all led, I think, also by the global financial crisis, that there was a hit on the financial sector. Many people started, exploring, even in the region, and you had inflow of talent, I believe, but also then technology helped, enabling them to start up new businesses. So I think now the penetration keeps growing in the region. Before it was very low. And I've seen, like, over the past 5 years, too many startups, young people, they're not afraid anymore, but they can build businesses with lower capex. You don't need too much, right, to start a business nowadays. It's all about the idea, the people, the product, how you go to market, and you can start it up. And then you have also experienced investors. I mean, venture capital firms, there are funds. They follow a very rigid process, not like before that money was coming only from families or individuals. So it's more structured as an industry now, and it will keep growing.
And you said a few interesting words, and I'm going to nitpick on all of them. You mentioned not afraid, you mentioned CapEx, you mentioned idea. All these things are very important aspects of this venture capital. So let's start with the idea and the verticals that you see. So obviously it's nascent here. The one thing that you always hear people talking about when they talk about this region is lack of innovation. How do you see that? Do you see that improving? Do you see that we're going to be focused a lot on B2C and copy paste type of models? Do you see more innovation, more enterprise and deep tech coming? Or do you think that's more further along? How do you see it from that perspective, that the kinds of ideas that are coming here?
Okay. Actually, now, I mean, you can actually you can solve problems. Let's put it this way. So it's not about innovation per se. It's also about utilizing technology to solve problems, to address issues, even from B2B or B2B2C or even B2C, that you were not doing before. We are not, I think entrepreneurs here are not trying to disrupt something fully, but to solve problems. It's not like Silicon Valley. In Silicon Valley, it's more disruption than problem solving. In emerging markets, there are so many low-hanging fruits, as I say, out there. Like if you see left and right, there are inefficiencies that can actually, and there are problems that you can solve by taking an idea to implementation, addressing these issues, right? That many people have. It might be too many people, B2C, or it might be businesses. That's the B2B. And deep tech, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe it's not the best place for deep tech, the Middle East, but you will see innovation and new ideas in different areas, like what I just said, pragmatism and go to solve real problems.
Interesting. And just staying with the idea stage of things, you know, one of the biggest and the most difficult part for an entrepreneur is when he or she has an idea and they're trying to get that angel investor, that first round of funding. You said, you talked about fear, you talk about not being afraid, you talked about low capex, but even so, it is still making those decisions to not have a job, spend some money, maybe they don't have it. How well is the angel ecosystem developed here? What would your advice be to people who have simply an idea? Let's take it from that early on. They simply have an idea. What should that person be doing?
Then they have to do their homework. They have to do some research to explore, to assess the viability of what's the product, first of all. Idea translates to product. Then they have to really design the product to understand, okay, that's what I want to take to the market to sell. Then what's the go-to-market strategy? You can have the best product, but you don't know how to go to the market. It's not the angel investor, right, who's going to take you by the hand to the market. It's you, the entrepreneur. So you need to have the personality, the drive, and the ability to go to market. And then it's about, what's the future? What's the scalability of what you are developing? Because that's where many times you go to the market, you sell, but you see that the product or the service cannot scale up. And nowadays, that's an issue. You need to be able to have a product that can keep growing and scaling up. And so there is, a growth potential that the angel investor or later investors can buy in.
And do you think that the angel, at the angel stage, there is enough of an ecosystem in our region?
Yeah, I see now that I consider myself also as an angel, right? With other friends, people, network here, that we get more and more experienced investors as well. So we get more experience by trying, by investing, by meeting young entrepreneurs, interacting with them. So the ecosystem is growing for sure. And there is more knowledge in the network, in the community of angel investors.
And when you let's say that an entrepreneur has gone through that stage and they've raised that angel money, what are the key areas that they should focus on? Because obviously you have limited amount of capital, you have limited resource, you have to look at teams, you have to look at product development, go to market. What when you're watching a company go through that stage, what tells you that they're on the right path or not? What are the focus areas?
They need to have deadlines, first of all. Without deadlines, timelines, without like a certain roadmap, you're lost. Then you keep chasing, yourself. So you need to know that by that time, I need to have developed my MVC, like minimum viable concept. Okay, I passed. Then, I do some trials, I do some pilots with the market in order to get to the MVP, minimum viable product. And from there, you need now to start building traction and go to market in order to get to the level where is the inflection point, that you break through and now you grow and you can grow exponentially. And we have seen that. We have examples in the region.
And if you think about the first from an applicability and need perspective, and then from an investor perspective, what are the verticals that are most attractive? Is it health tech? Is it edu tech? What is it that you see being most attractive here?
Ed tech and health tech. Health tech has to come also from more experienced people. Sometimes, you see health tech coming from people who were in the industry, even doctors sometimes, or medical service people who have a better understanding and knowledge. Education is more straightforward. So you can see that coming from younger people. I believe a lot in prop tech, in energy tech, energy efficiency, in food tech, in, like models, business models that you bring products to the consumer in a more efficient way. I mean, we've seen so many delivery businesses, right? How well they're done. What did they do? They solved the problem, and then we became used to it and accustomed to it. And then you don't have only one, you might have more than one. There is competition. And but I will go to the main vital sectors, as I said, even real estate. Real estate here is property management, etc. is one of the most inefficient sectors. There are so many ideas you can generate there. And but what I forgot to say earlier, and I wanted just to bring it up here for the young entrepreneurs, they always need to be able to alter. They cannot be dogmatic, they cannot be stubborn, they cannot be emotional. They should not be emotional, saying that, okay, my idea is the best idea in the world, so I'll do it. You have to go by trial and error, sometimes also to assess where they're right, where they're wrong. And then, change a little bit the business model, adjust, adapt.
And maybe related to that adjustment and adaptability, open-mindedness is a question of teams.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it would be very good for people to hear on when you're looking at it from an investor and you see the team dynamics, the team building. What do you like? What do you not like?
I don't like ventures that have only one founder somehow. I like ventures that have co-founders. Why? Because it's also risk management. It's also, there is always someone leading, but it's good to have a co-founder. I recently invested in a startup in Greece. I'm from Greece, right? So, but I liked them. The way they were like the two co-founders and the other founders was like a great team. And that's where I focus more on the people, right? On the personalities, on how they work together, on how they interact together, and how they complement each other. So yeah, team to me is, to me, there are three things, Huda: product, go-to-market, and team. These are the most important things in a startup.
And just staying with that team point, I met with a young person recently who has an idea and he's working on developing it and doing the things that you're talking about. He doesn't actually have a co-founder. And I sort of advise him similar to what you said. And, I said that, you need to have a team around you. And he was saying that, well, he works in industry business, and he said that people around me are just not risk takers, and in my ecosystem I don't know how to identify. So what are the forums for me to go and find a co-founder who not only is the right profile in terms of I need a tech person or I need a finance person, but also somebody that I gel with and have the chemistry with? And so where do I do that? What do I say to that guy?
It's network, it's asking mentors, like people from the industry, to help them, to introduce them. In terms of the forums, I mean, in different cities, right? There are sometimes gatherings, entrepreneurial forums, so you should go to participate. Nowadays, there is so much happening virtually. You should, just follow all of this. But to me, usually it's out of personal relationship or an interaction. And then, you meet someone in 15 minutes, you say, okay, wow, so we click. I mean, we can do things together here. Or an introduction from a mentor, like you are a mentor, right? So maybe you have from our networks, we have so many people that we know, and something might come up and we can introduce them.
I managed to catch a few words in a question that popped up, and it's relevant to the early stage. So staying with that, the question was something around keeping the idea safe. So I guess that's a question of people being worried about copycats or their idea being hijacked by somebody with more capital or more access. And I do see people worry about that. What's your views on that?
I mean, an idea is not everything, right? An idea is how you're going to take it to execution. Uber was there, so Karim came and did Uber in the Middle East. I mean, that's the best example we always use. And they did it even better. So that's why they succeeded. It's about execution, how you take the idea and you convert it to something real. And then you provide the best service to the customers. And this keeps repeating and growing. And then it's how scalable it is again, the idea. At the end, it's about the people too. It's the product, it's the idea, yes, but how do you go to the market? Different people have different ways to go to the market, and it's the team.
So Stergios, as we move along this sort of journey now, at the initial stage, you have to have a good product with the right, the right idea that has scalability embedded in it, that has a target market that's big enough. You have the right, buddings of a team with co-founders and complementing skills, and you have a go-to-market strategy, an initial one, and that's working. And you get to the next stage. Now you're going in the market to start, you've done angel, you've done seed. Now you're going to, getting to the Series A stage. What at that stage, when you see businesses going through that, what else becomes important? What do you start looking for as businesses go through that journey?
Then it's leadership, right? You have to develop your leadership skills, or to have, to try to apply them in the best way. If you cannot, because sometimes you find the founders to be amazing in conceptualization, taking it to the first 1-2 rounds, but they can't go beyond that, or they need help. And that's why, if you are like on a Series A or Series B and you are asking for many million of capital to come in, you need to be able to deploy this money. And you need to have a larger team, and you need to manage better your resources. So that's where many times founders are failing, when they become arrogant, when they think that, having reached the Series B, that's it, done. Now I'm gonna be a multimillionaire, and I'm gonna exit, and they lose their minds. You need to be always humble and be very focused and go step by step. And when you cannot execute on everything, hire the right people to help you and give them incentivization too.
And I was actually going to ask you next about mistakes. So that's a great segue. You know, the big mistakes that people make when they get, especially when they get money, because, you know, having money is not always a good thing, having too much money. What are the most common mistakes you see people making? You know, hiring too many people, burning too much cash, whatever it is. What are the most common mistakes you see? And as an investor, how much guidance are you giving them through this process? How involved do you get?
I've seen, you know, like entrepreneurs, founders at that level, when they source, when they raise all the funds, they don't know how to deploy it, and they keep being theoretical. Like, okay, I raise now X million at that valuation. My next round will be this million. So they become not practical. They lose their minds, as I say, instead of knowing, okay, how am I gonna deploy this money? What's my ROI, right? What's my return on investment? How am I gonna utilize in the best way? Sometimes they over raise money. That's another, right? Because they keep, I don't know, the market has certain, has set some rules, some standards, which I don't agree. Me, I'm more out, you know, of the box. So it doesn't need to follow any rules. Like, okay, I'm a Series A, that's my valuation, that's the money I'm looking for. I'm Series B, that's the money. No, it's what you need at any given time. It can be something between Series A and Series B. It doesn't need to follow. So the market has adopted certain rules, again, which is not a doctrine. You don't need to follow rigidly. You have to make sure that at any given time, you have enough money to pursue your strategy. And you know how to deploy the money, that's all.
But a counter potentially to that is you know, a hot market, like, right? So I'm in a growth phase and a scaling phase. I'm about to get my, you know, I'm getting so much love from the market. I know I need 5 million for the next 12 months, but I could potentially get to 10 million and have it for longer. Now that leads to a lot of problem, as you and I know. But do you not think it would be wise for an entrepreneur to take advantage of the market to some extent, just to take a counter view?
Why not? If they can use the 10 and generate the same returns and help the company grow instead of burning it. Burning cash is not good for anyone, right?
So,
for the business, for...
so avail the market, but keep an eye on the ROI is what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, if you need, okay, if you think that with the 10 million, you can grow twice or 3 times, just take it. The sooner the better.
And then on the other point about you as an investor having, you know, guiding them and the openness to advise, your involvement.
Oh yeah, I mean, when I'm an angel investor, we are sometimes more active, you know, we're like mentors, we guide them, we help them. And that's how we're value adding investors. Otherwise, and we try actually to see how you can introduce them to new markets, to new geographies, through our network. It's also, you know, guidance and business development.
And just maybe focusing on a little bit of a detail, because it comes a lot from people. You see a lot of pitch decks. What are the do's and don'ts of a good pitch deck?
Yeah, like I don't like high level, vague, easygoing pitches. Like, oh, that's the idea, amazing, you have to buy the idea. No, you have to be very detail oriented and really, you know, you have done your homework and you know what you're talking about. Of course, there are always improvements to make, but no high level, not being uninformed. Many times you make a question, a basic question, and you see the founder, the entrepreneur does not have an answer, or they try to give an answer. Instead of, sometimes you can say also, you know what, you're right, actually we haven't looked at it, let us go back and look at it. And the other thing I don't like with a pitch on a startup is, again, the path. Oh, in 5-10 years, this can be a unicorn, and then we exit, and then we're out. And I mean, I can't, it's all about the vision, right? So and you can see as an investor that this could become a unicorn. So then you go and you empower these people, because sometimes maybe they don't know. It's just that, you know, some entrepreneurs are entering now the VC space in all of this hot market with this expectation that, okay, in 5-10 years, I'll have a unicorn, I'll go home, or I'll go do something else. The do's is, again, to be humble, specific, detail-oriented, and to see the future. You have to, demonstrate how a visionary you are, even as a founder, that you have to believe in it.
That's interesting, because I think that's a very common thing where visions have become valuation oriented as opposed to product oriented or sector oriented. And you know, I think a lot of it is to do with the way the language that people in your seat are using. I think, can you be a unicorn? You know, I think I have seen entrepreneurs be victims of their pitch is being pushed towards a valuation discussion as opposed to a product discussion. How common do you think that is in the investment community? And do you think we at the allocation side are to blame for some of that?
Sometimes, yeah, we follow this, the patterns that do not apply always. We need to be more, it's an evolving journey, not a destination that you say, you know what, in 5 years, I want to have $500 million valuation. Let's see how I get there. No, or we will get there. So you buy into this story. No, I want to buy into today, that you can walk me through, right? How you get to the $500 million in 5 years. Sometimes they lose the way to get there. Many founders, that's the thing. And they follow this standardized terms of valuations. I'm now on the Series A, that's my valuation. How do we know, right?
And if we're now talking about this, you know, hundreds of millions, now you're at a growth stage. You're no longer at a startup stage. One of the things that's happening now in the market is people are saying that there's not enough funding at the growth stage. Would you agree with that?
True, and there is actually opportunity for growth equity funds in the region. I've seen that, right? Because so far we have the PE. We have now many VCs that go up to Series B, and then you have the private equity. However, now you can see that companies can grow. What is possible today was not possible 5 years ago. You can see companies setting up today, and in 2 years to be EBITDA positive or profitable. They become already growth company, and they need to find the right funding for that growth stage. So what I'm saying is that there is a gap, I do agree, for growth equity. And I know that, you know, in the region, there are several firms who are looking at the specific stage to fund companies for growth.
And if I drill more into that growth stage definition, what does it look like in terms of the company, and what does it look like in terms of the investment?
And that's the big challenge, right, that we were talking about earlier. For the founders, that's where it's the big challenge, how now they can grow, how they can scale up. And sometimes they're not capable, or they need help, need support. So human capital is very critical. And that's when you need the right investors to help you, like us, all right, or others, but you need some guidance on the growth phase, and you need a good board, advisory board. So you need like some more guidance there, but that's that's a very challenging path, the growth, because sometimes cannot handle the growth, the way it, you know, the way it develops without being capable to handle it, capacity-wise, human capital-wise, and then you fail because you cannot address, right, this growth.
And in this growth, what kind of, on the investment side, if you want to fund this stage, what kind of check sizes are we talking about?
Growth stage, 10, 15, 20, it depends, right? At the size of the company too. It depends. It can go up to, we're talking about institutional money now, not angel money. Yeah, I think the checks that usually you see in the market, even for PE, it's from 25 to 100 to 100 more. So accordingly, it should be like from 10 to 30.
And at growth stage, especially if you have, we've succeeded so far and you've done well, maybe if you have some you have positive contribution, this is a stage where strategics can sometimes become interested.
Oh yeah,
maybe can you talk a little bit about that, if you've seen that, if you think we need more of that here?
Yeah, that's not, you don't see any proper corporate like acquisitions yet, but we will start seeing it more often. What we don't see also is the secondary sales, like, like a PE company buys into a growth stage company, and then you exit at a more mid-sized PE firm. And the market will start providing this kind of liquidity, which is good. And on the corporate side, yes, I think now corporates need to adopt more technology, because most of these companies are tech oriented, right? So they need this in the conglomerate, in their business. Let's say logistics, right? So you have a logistics tech, maybe Aramex likes it, they can buy it.
But we haven't seen that happen enough, is what you're saying.
No, because you don't have yet like these large corporates here who are, I'm not gonna say sophisticated, but they're not focused on that yet. They do CVC, right? So more and more wanna do now the corporate venture capital. This is happening, you know that. We both know that.
Of course.
Maybe you can have this path, but this is not a corporate acquisition, it's a CVC. It's like an internal fund, but then you can actually integrate them to your own business. It will happen.
I'm just watching the time and I want to open it up for questions. So I'll just ask you one last thing, realization and exits. And, because whenever you're raising money, the investor cares about the exit. So how should an entrepreneur approach, think, talk about that? And what is the reality of this region?
Yeah, as we just spoke about it, right? There are no many secondary sales. There's no an active IPO market. Maybe, yeah. I mean, Saudi is an active IPO market, but they have certain criteria. You cannot go do SPAC there, or you see, in the US, many companies have only 4 or 5 years life, and they are already listed. And so it starts happening. The SPACs are happening. I think there is an opportunity now, to do exits through delisted through the stock exchange. And again, corporates and have more different stage funds from growth to PE. There are exits. And then PE, usually want to have majority.
Yes.
They will have 80%. So the founders might exit most of it. They might ask them to stay and keep like 20, 30%. So they have they have a liquidity event, but they can still stay in.
Good. Okay, I'm going to switch over to audience questions just to make use of the time. One question here is from Zaid on how to approach an angel investor if your MVP needs a lot of money to be able to work on it.
Well, it depends why the MVP needs a lot of money, right? And the angel investor will ask, how much money? You need like 5 million? You cannot get 5 million in an angel round. So maybe they need to break it into 2 phases, like say, I can go for the first level of MVP with less money. So you have the angel, it's like a risk management too. from the investor side, and the rest, or just they have to go to reassess their model. Maybe the MVP does not need as much money. Maybe it needs less, or you just use some now and you go to pre-seed or seed and take more money. Proof of concept, etc. You need proof of concept. Maybe you can do it with less.
The rest of the questions that I have here, we've discussed. I'm just going to open it up. If anybody wants to ask questions, you can, raise your hand, unmute, and, we can get your questions that way. I think, Jennifer, correct?
Yes, please. Yes, they can unmute or they can raise their hands.
Hello.
All right. Go ahead.
Yes. Hi. My name is Amasa. Thank you, Stergios, for your insightful contribution. I would like to know two things regarding at the start. What will be the average ticket, which is really the one that can be successful for a seed investment, as well as the size of a team to be relevant to attract the interest of the investors? Because you mentioned that solo doesn't, solo founder is a difficult thing, but sometimes the business is totally oriented around one person. So how to diversify the team to make it relevant and not to dilute the idea or the concept?
Sure. No, thanks. That's a very valid question. That's a very good question, Almasa.
Thank you.
I see the founder be the visionary, see also more in the front. There's always a need for an operational person, also finance. Then you have more the IT, tech, data, and marketing. Let's say these 4 areas. Sometimes, okay, one person cannot do everything, or to me, they should not do everything. Mm-hmm. Therefore, for an angel investment, the typical size for me is between 4 to 5 people. 4 to 5. 4 to 5.
Yeah.
Then when you move to pre-seed or seed, it has to be 10 to 12. That's what I've seen. And I try to, in Europe also, but also here. And then the team starts morphing better. Instead of having people coming in continuously, it's better to have a core team. When you go for seed, it means that you already generate revenue, you are post-revenue, you are having customers, you have ARR, like average recurring revenue. So it's rolling. So it's good to have like 10 people. Mm-hmm. And in terms of size, you ask me, in terms of the ticket size, yes. For seed?
Yes.
For seed stage.
Mm-hmm.
1 to 3 million.
Okay, US or different?
Yeah, US.
US, huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if it's a real solo kind of if it's a real solo concept,
one founder, only one person. Hey.
Maybe the question, Almasa, is what would make that happen? Because I mean, most things require a team to do, right? I think Stergios very well said that you need the technology, the driver, the fine. So what would make it solo? I guess that's the question, rather.
But sorry.
No, sorry, Masa, please.
Yeah, because I am currently working on a concept of a TV program, which will be very much. I mean, of course, there is a team, but this is very much like about a personal project. So how to really engage the interest and leverage the right capital for that, even though I will of course work with professional for the backside, but for the technical part and so on. But if I want to really get the capital for my own concept, that's quite a tricky one.
No, you can still get it. I mean, if you can prove to the investor that, okay, for now, I need X amount to get to the next stage. When we get to the next stage, I need more people. So by then I will know what exactly I need. What are the resources I need? What type of people do I need? Instead of hiring right up front. But sometimes, when you work as a team and you have the founder and the co-founding team, you are incentivized by having some option schemes, some shares. Usually you work it out this way.
And that's my next question. What is the reasonable level of equity you should give?
It depends.
Yeah.
All right. I'll use an example, okay? So the two co-founders can have something like a 40%, and the 20% is distributed through an option scheme for the other teams. When it's an angel, let's say 2-3 members. But it has to be vested and money will come in because the other two have taken all the risk, right, so far. And the burden, and sometimes you put money, you fund it.
Ubay, I think, has a question, so please go ahead. Thank you, Mas.
Hi, Mr. Stergios. How are you doing?
Hi, bye.
Hi. All right. I want to ask something in the same regard of being a solopreneur. I actually have, as Huda said, tried to approach people, but many are not really on the same boat. Can be sometime. However, I mean, for my startup, I have a team, and I have been funding it. And some of my team are more like my partners. However, they're all like paid somehow. And I already have reached to the stage where I have generated revenue. And on the other hand, as of myself, I have a mixed variety of experience in technical with the growth. It's more like a product management background with a technical background. So I have done the same thing that I'm doing to my startup, to many other like big brands and big products. So as of myself, I can handle the whole thing. However, I know like effort-wise, it's impossible. That's why I'm hiring people and I'm trying to find a co-founder. And my question is, in this stage, do you consider the like, is this what I'm said, like funding my startup and having employees is enough for an angel investor to be interested? Or is that like something will automatically make me not favorable?
No, I think Ubay at this stage that you take the risk, right, and you have put your own money and you hire people, so the angel investor will appreciate that. And I don't mean, by the way, that always it has to be a co-founder approach, but usually it's better. However, sometimes it starts, as you say, as a solopreneur, and throughout the next phase, maybe you can bring in someone as a partner that has complementary skills as you grow. Sometimes,
exactly. Yeah.
Sometimes maybe you don't, but always incentivization, right? Because what the angel investor does not want to see here is that the people start leaving for any reason because they're not incentivized or they get a better offer somewhere else, and you are left by yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I mean, I've been working on my startup, for example, for like 2 years, and I have already made I have 90,000 customers, and I have already revenue, so I could do it by myself. So I mean, like the numbers always don't lie. It's not like theoretical concepts. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, not a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anyone else have any more questions? I don't see any more on the chat. Good. Stergios, any parting words you would like to leave people with in terms of people who are raising money, building businesses? What would be the parting words of advice from you?
I mean, no fear, calculate your risks, be a dreamer, but also be visionary, but also be pragmatic, and be able to change your mind. Don't be emotional. Look for partnerships. I mean, I'm a very partnership-oriented person in anything I do too, right? So look for the right partners. They will help you. It's better to grow faster and grow something bigger and share it than just go your own way, because sometimes it's not an easy path, right? It's like a big it's a very challenging journey, and just discuss it only with yourself. It's not the best thing. I've done it once, that's why. So I learned.
Great. No, thank you very, very much for your time. I think it was useful for everyone. It's great to get the viewpoint of the investor. Thanks again, everyone, for attending. Jennifer for organizing, Kamar for making it happen, and finally, Stergios. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Oh, it was my pleasure, Huda. Thank you so much, and have a nice evening to everyone.